Today we're going to look at section 6-4 in your algebra book, and it's going to be on factoring trinomials in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, where x squared does not have a coefficient, no leading coefficient. All right, before we get started, I'd like to do a little warm-up. I want to know what two numbers multiply to 39 and add to 16. Okay, what multiplies to 39 and adds to 16? So in trying to do this, the first thing I might do is start listing my factors. The factors of 39, I've got 1 and 39. Does that add to 16? No. 2 doesn't go into 39. 3 and 13. Does that add to 39? Does that add to 16? As a matter of fact, it does. 3 and 16. So I want you to get in the habit of doing this. Now I want you to try a few on your own. Take a minute. Let's try one more together. All right, what number multiplies to negative 12 and adds to 1? Remember, we put the product in the numerator and the sum or difference in the denominator. So the top one is the product and the bottom number is our sum or difference. So as I start thinking about negative 12, I've got 3 times negative 4. That makes negative 12. But it doesn't add to positive 1. The sum of positive 3 and negative 4 makes negative 1. How about negative 3, positive 4? That multiplies to negative 12, and as it happens, yes, it multiplies to negative 12 and the sums to positive 1. All right. Now you try the next few. Pause the recording and do the warm-ups. All right, now check your work. We'd already finished that one. So what is the product of 4? What comes to a product of 4 and is a sum or difference of negative 4? Negative 2 times negative 2 multiplies to positive 4 and sums to negative 4. What multiplies to negative 4 and sums to 0? Negative 2 and positive 2. What multiplies to negative 24 and is a sum to 10? Positive 12 times negative 2. Now I know you might think 6 and 4, but positive 6, positive 4 make positive 24. So they would both have to be positive to sum to 10. So we can't use 6 and 4 because they don't multiply to negative 24 and add to positive 10. Positive 14, negative 3. Now try some more. Whoops. So when we're looking for what multiplies to 56 and adds to 15, 7 and 8. Try the rest. Now, check your work. What multiplies to negative 40 and adds to negative 6 is negative 10 and positive 4. Negative 16 and negative 5. Negative 22 and positive 2. Negative 33 and negative 2. Negative 12 and positive 4. Take a minute and check your answers. Now we're ready to start our lesson on factoring trinomials in the form of x squared plus bx plus c. Disregard the little the period there, that is a mistake. All right, so in factoring x squared plus bx plus c, where c is a positive number, well, it doesn't really matter if c is positive or negative. The technique I'm going to show you will kind of account for whether c is positive or negative. So the first thing we're going to do, now just a quick review. Remember when we're doing this, we multiply, we double distribute. X times x makes x squared. X times positive 2 makes positive 2x. X times 3 times x makes positive 3x. 3x and 2x make our 5x, the center term, plus 6. So now we're basically going, let's take a look. When I multiply the two last terms in the binomial, it gives me the last two terms. When I add the last two terms, it gives me my center coefficient. When I multiply the last two terms, it gives me the product of, it gives me the c term. So one more time. When I add the last two terms of the binomial, I get the middle coefficient of the linear term. When I multiply the last two terms in the binomial, I get the product of the last of the c term in the trinomial. So now let's take a minute and do this. Now what we did before as an earlier warm-up is basically what I call X marks the spot. So I use X marks the spot when I'm trying to factor. So I want to know what multiplies to that last term and what is a sum or difference to the middle term. So I can start going through some of the factors of 10. Start with the factors of 10. 1 and 10. 2 and 5. And as it happens, positive 2, positive 5, add to 7, and multiply to 10. So if those are my factors, all I have to do is write x plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 5. Plus 5, sorry, because it's positive, positive. Let's try it again. Take a minute, pause the recording if you need to write down your X marks the spot, and I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to do one more with you, and then you can stop the recording and do number 2 and 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is give myself an X marks the spot. The number that goes in the top is the product, what multiplies. The one number that goes in the middle, I'm looking for a sum or a difference. Okay? So I put the sum or difference for the middle term, the 9, and I'm looking for the product of the last term, 20. If you need to, you can start listing the factors. 1 times 20 makes 20. 2 times 10 makes 20. Does that add to 9 to either of those factors? 3 does not go into 20. 4 times 5. As we know it, 4 times 5 both adds to 9 and multiplies to 20. Now remember, I need a positive 4 times a positive 5. So I'm ready to make my x plus 4 times the quantity of x plus 5. Let's try another one. Why don't you try it this time? Start with your X marks the spot. Pause the recording and finish number 2 and 3. Now check your work. Actually, I'm going to just draw this out for you guys. All right. X marks the spot, what multiplies to 12, adds to -8. So this time we have a negative. I'm looking at, I know 3 and 4 add to 7. 3 minus 4, so I'm going to try 6 and 2. I try 6 and 2. Whoops. Now, to get a positive 12 and a -8, I know I'm going to need, let's do that in color. Okay, I know I'm going to need my number to add to a negative number. In order for that to happen, I'm going to have -8, a -6, and -2. When I multiply a negative times a negative, I end up with a positive 12. So, it's x minus 2 times x minus 6. Now, where am I getting that x from? Oh, sorry about that. I have to make that y. Where am I getting the y from? Okay. Remember, I've got this y squared here. How do I get that? From multiplying two variables together. So I place that first. The next one. Start with my what multiplies to 12 and adds to -7. All right, let's keep going. I've got 1 and 12, 3 and 4, but I've got to have it sum to a negative. So I'm going to have to use -3 and -4. So I get m minus 3 times the quantity of m minus 4. All right, stop the recording, take any notes you need to, and then we're going to move on to the next slide. All right, so moving on, just some more practice problems. Remember, each time, use your X marks the spot to help you figure out what multiplies to the last term and sums or differences to the middle term. Stop the recording and work on 1 through 5. All right, now check your work. Don't worry about the method that my PowerPoint is showing. They're just going through the list of the factors and they're doing trial and error. If the X marks the spot helps you, write down the X marks the spot. So for number 1, we have x, the quantity of x plus 6 times the quantity of x plus 7. Number 2, the quantity of m minus 3 times the quantity of m minus 7. Number 3, the quantity of y minus 3 times the quantity of y minus 12. Number 4 is not factorable. There's none of the factors. Take a minute and finish this, get this going. None of the factors in, let's take a look. Whether I make either any of these negative or positive, none of them will add to 12 or subtract to 12. 8 minus 3 is 5. 8 plus 3 is 11. 12 minus 2 is 10. 12 plus 2 is 14. So no matter what you do, there's nothing that will multiply to 24 and add to 12. And that's when we say it's not factorable. And number 5 is the quantity of x minus 3 times the quantity of x minus 8. Now, let's continue. Now, I know that my PowerPoint breaks it up when C is negative. So they're looking at when you have a negative and a positive. Basically, when your last term is a negative number. They're differentiating and they're calling it the middle term a difference. Now, I just like to, it doesn't matter if it's a sum or a difference. I just make my X marks the spot the same way. What multiplies to negative 12 and adds to positive 4. Okay? So I can go through my factors. Negative 12, positive 1. I've got 2 and 6. That could be it. I need a positive 4. So if I subtract 6 from 2, I get 4. But how would I get a negative number? I'm going to have to make one of them. So in order to do that and keep it positive, I'm going to have to keep the 6 positive and the 2 negative. That gives me a negative product and a positive sum. So we get, remember, the square root of x squared is x, and then I have minus 2 plus 6. Stop the recording if you need to take notes. Now let's move on. They're going to do the trial and error method. Disregard it. All right, let's try it a few more times. Again, just doing X marks the spot. Let me rewrite it. The top is a product. And the bottom, I'm looking for a sum or a difference. I add or subtract. So what multiplies to negative 12 and adds to positive 1? Okay, negative 12 and negative 1. Nope. I've got 3 and 4. Let's try negative 3, positive 4. That'll do it. Negative 3, positive 4 gives us x minus 3 times the quantity of x plus 4. Now stop the recording and do number 2 and 3. All right, now check your work. Number 2 is y plus 5 times the quantity of y minus 8. Number 3 is t plus 2 times the quantity of t minus 9. My preferred method is that I see you doing that X marks the spot every time. As you get better at this, you can start leaving the X marks the spot. But for this section, it's probably a good idea, and I want to see that in your homework at night. We've got more. That you can practice, and then check your work. Number 1 is m plus 7 times the quantity of m minus 4. Number 2 is x plus 5 times the quantity of x minus 6. Number 3 is k plus 4 times the quantity of k minus 6. Now remember, every once in a while, you may get a not factorable. There's no numbers in all the factors of 18 that will add or subtract to 5. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Give you a minute to check your work. All right, I'm going to skip through the rest of this PowerPoint to the next section. Just start right here. All right, so when we're truly factoring, remember, every single time, we have to check for our greatest monomial factor and then it's either this, this, or this. We've done difference of squares, perfect square trinomials, and now we're trinomial factoring. By the way, if you forget how to identify a perfect square trinomial, the X marks the spot will work for that as well. All right? So here we go. Let's try true factoring. This is how you're going to see it in the book. All right. Remember, for our first thing we have to do every time we factor is divide out the GCF. So I'm going to divide out what common factor can I divide out of 3, 21, and 36. And I see that it's a 3. And now I'm left with x squared plus 7x plus 36, 12. So then I say to myself, x marks a spot. What multiplies to 12 and adds to positive 7? Positive 3 and positive 4. So I get 3 times the quantity. I'm putting an x in that first term place. I have a 3 in one spot and a 4 in the next. And you can always check it by going back. I can multiply my 3 in first, and I get 3x plus 9 times x plus 4. I'm going to double distribute. 3x times x gives me 3x. Let me switch colors for you. All right. Let's try it again. 3x times x gives me 3x squared. 3x times 4 gives me plus 12x. I've got 9 times x gives me plus 9x. And I've got 9 times 4 gives me plus 36. If you add that together, you get 3x squared plus 12x plus 9x plus 36. The one thing I forgot to tell you to do earlier, whenever you've got your answer, check it. Do your double distributing on the paper, especially for tonight's homework, until you get this right. Do your check. Just double distribute back in. So if I have the 3, I distribute the 3 in first. Let's go back. I'm distributing my 3 back in first. I get 3x plus 9. And then I take that binomial and multiply it by the next binomial. And when I check it, I do get 3x squared plus 21x, because 12x and 9x make 21x plus 36, which is what we just started with. All right, I'm going to switch colors for you now. Let's try it again. Making my x marks a spot. Is there anything that can be factored out of number 2? Is there a GCF? Okay, so let's try this. The first thing we got to look at, I have x to the 4th. So the square root, what would give me two numbers multiplied together? X squared times x squared. Okay? Now I'm looking for a number that multiplies to 4 and adds to negative 5. I can do 1 and 4. Positive 1 times positive 4 does not. But if I have a negative 1 and a negative 4, let's try it. Negative 1, negative 4. That multiplies to positive 4. It adds to negative 5. So now let me do my double check. X times x squared makes x to the 4th. X times 4 makes minus 4x. For x squared, I've got minus x squared. And then I've got plus 4. When I combine my like terms, I get minus 4x squared. Sorry, I have to combine my like terms. I'm going to combine these next two terms, negative 4x and negative x squared, and I get negative 5x squared, and I've got my plus 4. So x to the fourth, and yes, I end up. Now, what is the answer that you actually put in your answer column? It's the factored form. This right here. This is just your checking method. The factored form that you would actually put in your answer column is right here. All right, take a minute, see if you can do it. Try the next one. Oh my God, what did I do there? Oh boy. Okay, I did not fully factor it. Not good. I left it here. Now, had you done this on a test, you would have gotten this wrong. Sorry about that. Because look what we're left with. We're left with two sets of difference of squares. Okay, so this is going to have to break down to your x plus 1 times x minus 1. And this breaks down to x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right. Let's try the next one. Now you guys do the next one. Take a minute, check your work. Remember to pull out your GCF. I can divide a y out of everything. Now again, I'm just doing my what multiplies to a 6 and adds to a negative 5. 2 and 3. And then I can't factor that anymore. Make sure to double check it, especially ones this complicated. Check your work here. All right, and that's the lesson on factoring trinomials.